Sirui has launched their contribution into the world of 85mm f1.4 lenses. How does it perform? Let's take a look. This lens is coming in at $499 US. It's a full frame lens. On the camera body, we've got an AFL button on the left-hand side of the lens body, and right along with that is the AF/MF switch, also located just by the AFL button. On the front, it's got a protective fluorine coating. It is also dust and moisture resistant, and on the bottom of the lens, on the back of the lens, it has a USB-C port for future firmware updates. Let's talk about its autofocus performance. Now, overall, this lens was good whenever it came to its autofocus. Now, I will admit, I didn't necessarily use this lens as an 85mm portrait lens, not necessarily a wildlife lens, but with the environment that I was in testing it out, yes, I did take portrait photos and they turned out well and autofocus was great in those, but the birding out in this cottage area was fantastic. And so I wasn't necessarily using it for its intended use, but it's what I had. And overall, autofocus did a good job whenever I put it in scenarios of tracking really quickly moving, very small wildlife. Now, in its more static areas, whether it's just kind of a landscape or a boat going by or, portrait photography, it did really well. It performed strongly. It was getting eye focus without any issues. And as far as noise goes with the autofocus motor is silent, it's smooth. It can make just a tiny bit of noise if it's left to focus hunt. If you're just pointing it kind of at nothing and it's just focus hunting, it'll produce a tiny bit of noise, but nothing that's going to cause you any issues. Minimum focus distance on this lens is 0.85 meters or 2.79 feet. Now, as far as low light behavior and aperture behavior, it's got a wide open aperture of f1.4. Opening all the way up while you're indoors in a lower light situation makes it appear as if your subject is right next to a window and you have an ample amount of sunlight filtering through, which I can assure you for the shot was absolutely not this case. This was a dark wall in my little apartment house area, and it was dark, but opening wide up at f1.4 makes it look as if there's lots of light available. So low light situations, it performs very well thanks to its wide open aperture of f1.4. Taking a look at bokeh quality, you can see it's quite circular when it's in the middle of the frame. And whenever we have a subject in focus and it's in the background, you can see it starts to kind of D-shape a little bit. Now, putting the whole background out of focus, you can see that it looks really nice all throughout the frame and is particularly strong and nicely circular. I would say at f5 is really kind of a sweet spot in my personal opinion. Taking a look at aperture racking, you can see there is some flickering while transitioning from wide open to f11, which, to be fair, is quite a massive change when it comes to aperture racking. But there were small flickering steps in that transition. Now, addressing how this lens handles specifically for video work, it is quite light, coming in at 1.2 pounds or 544 grams. And for an 85mm f1.4 lens, that's really quite lightweight. And the focus ring is located at the end of the barrel, which is something I really appreciate. I really hate it whenever lens manufacturers put the focus and the aperture ring almost next to each other. It's not something I like at all. So I appreciate that the focus ring is at the end of the barrel in its design, and the focus ring has a smooth and light rotation. The aperture ring tucked in nice and close. It is click and declickable. That setting is found on the right side. There's a switch there to put that in whatever mode of operation that you would like, clicked or declicked. Whenever it comes to the aperture ring rotating from f16 to automatic, there's not necessarily a super hard stop or a lock feature which will keep you from rotating over, but I will say that there's a decently firm stop at the end at f16 to let you know you've reached the end of your rotation and inhibit you from accidentally switching over to automatic. As far as stabilization goes, shooting with this lens, pretty much everything I shoot is set to standard on the steady shot stabilization menu on my Sony A7IV. And 85mm is a bit of a difficult length to stabilize whenever you are shooting handheld. Let's be honest, probably should be using a tripod. However, DaVinci Resolve did a really fantastic job in eliminating any extra unwanted motion within the footage. And you'll see that most of the clips that I am showing you has had that additional level of stabilization applied. Now, as far as image results, this lens was good at finding focus, although I would say that whenever we're looking at the footage itself, it's good, it's decent, but it's not incredibly or overwhelmingly sharp, clear, and really nice and colorful and vibrant. Whenever it comes to lens flares, it does produce nice clean sun stars that were produced without flaring. It didn't have any flaring issues. And whenever it comes to chromatic aberrations, it performed really well. It was always clean, wide open in tests and in real world use. This lens never gave me any problems with color fringing. It always produced a nice, clean image. Now, overall, the video that I got from this lens was nice and it gave a good performance. It gave me some great nature shots as well as some portrait photos that I was really happy with. And so the Sirui 85mm f1.4 is currently sitting at $499 US, which I think is a fantastic price in the world of 85mm f1.4 lenses on the market. This is, I think, the cheapest option you can get for Sony E-mount 85mm f1.4. And it offers you a really good option, affordable, decent price point for a good portrait lens that is going to be able to do portrait photos really well, but also convert into a video lens for hybrid shooters who are looking to shoot video as well. And if you'd like to buy it, the links are down below. But I will say, if you are willing to spend $100 more, I do recommend you check out this video and see what else is on the market. I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video and the review, found it useful and helpful. If you'd like to see future reviews, please consider subscribing. And that's all I got. Take care, have a wonderful day, and remember to let the light in.